This episode of Scab Talk is brought to you by Lethal Gaming Gear. And welcome back to Scab Talk, everyone. Today's episode, we're catching you up on the Tarkov news that we have for you this week, followed by Memer Meta M1A edition. Then we got some Nikita news with the BSG team, a few teasers there, but namely we have a interview from Pestily, who conducted an interview with Nikita, who was an hour long, and have some notes from GigaBeef to discuss over that. Look forward to that. And then towards the end, we'll probably just kind of talk about what we've been up to as far as our personal gamer lives and etc.
Sounds good. So yeah, this week has been more, I don't know, something slightly more interesting than what we've had in the other weeks. There's actually quite a few things to talk about because, especially when it comes to interviews and whatnot, there's always a lot to say because they usually cover a lot. Pestily goes through like every single question and comment. But before we do that, let's just go through. I think this is almost out of order, kind of, but it sort of makes sense to start here before we dive into everything. So they actually posted an upcoming fixes,
Yes.
which was yesterday, almost exactly 24 hours ago, actually. And it was an estimated plan. I don't know. I'm not really sure why they posted this, but an estimated plan of the fixes and improvements will be included in the upcoming updates for EFT and EFT Arena. This came from Tarkov. Fixes for issues synchronizing EFT and EFT Arena game profiles. The classic problems, just all the issues there. I mean, I don't know. It's just like trader rep and everything else, just a mess, right? Fix for the bug where the player would not receive the task to restore Lightkeeper's reputation after failing the task getting acquainted. This is like, I don't know, this is not specifically the bug. The other one is like fix for a bug where the player would not receive rewards for completing Lightkeeper's tasks. Like these two are worded very precisely. And I just hope it includes a fix for just Lightkeeper in general. I'm sure that's probably what they mean. But like the issue is getting acquainted failing in general, rather than these things in particular. So I don't know. It's just a bit weird. It's just strangely worded. Like I don't know why they didn't just say, fixing bugs. Maybe they didn't want it to be so broad. Fixing bugs with Lightkeeper task access or something. But like there's the failing getting acquainted is like the problem in and of itself first. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see. But anyway, visual fixes to the fog, because there's been a lot of fog recently. It's just quite funny as people have been posting some screenshots and stuff of like some crazy. I actually haven't seen fog that bad myself. It's been quite foggy on some maps, but it's been like absolutely insane for some people. So some people have had it so bad, and also like the way that the shaders work for certain like glass textures and things. It's like the glasses bug that we've talked about, forever, evermore, where people, certain glasses glow in the distance in the fog. It's like that on like lots of glass textures on the streets. You just don't normally see it because fog's not normally that bad. But especially on the streets of Tarkov, there's loads of buildings with glass in them and stuff. And when the fog's like super crazy, it actually looks horrible because there's just like floating panes of glass that are just like black, like off in the distance, all over the place, and it's just a bit of a mess, which is not great. But apparently, so somebody was asking. I saw somebody asking Applezor about it, the community manager, and he basically said, he was just like, the fog is intended, obviously, but like the Silent Hill vibes is not really what we're going for. So we're trying to fix it, trying to tweak it. Like I have no idea how they parameterize fog into the game, but it's clearly not a case of just like, fog draw distance equals X or something. It's something, it's going to be some combination of stuff, and then it's probably piped in some weird angle. You have to like dial some number in, and it doesn't actually mean anything, so you have to fiddle with it, and it's because it varies per raid, and sometimes it goes like way too off the far end. It reminds me like of playing with a little like slide. If you're trying to do like a transition in like an editing software, and you're like playing with the keyframes, and then you tweak it very slightly, and then it's like the curve has to try and like fit the transition in somehow, and it goes whoop, and so the thing just starts to like move like erratically around the screen. You're like, no, that's not what I want. It's like it must be a bit like that, what I mean? It's just like at some point it's like the max of the curve is like way too far versus what they expect or something, because they have to control it in a weird way. I don't know, but anyway, they're aware of it, and they're looking to fix it. Geometry fixes for Streets of Tarkov, Nick, and Cordia and Tarbank. I don't know exactly what this means, but I've seen Airwing posting a few things about doors on streets being super weird. Maybe it's to do with that. I don't know, because that would be kind of geometry related, I guess. But there was he posted a screenshot of a regular streets door, and there's a few of them around where they've got a normal door with a glass panel, and then there's a glass panel above. And there's two doors next to each other. And at first I was like, what's he talking about? Like, he looks the same to me. But in the picture, one door is like that, as normal. And the other one has got two glass panels at the top. And the door is shorter than it should be. It's squished. The whole model is scaled vertically, like 0.8 or something. But it means that when you try to... There's no gap because there's an extra panel at the top. So it's there's two window top panels. Yes, two glass panels instead of one, and the door is then scaled to fit into the hole. But that means that when you open the door, you can't get in.
Oh my god, that's
because it's too low. So you have to crouch in to certain buildings in streets at the moment, which is just what's happening?
That's hilarious.
How does that occur? It's just oh my goodness. So I've seen that on his page recently. He's been documenting quite a few bugs and things, which is quite funny. So maybe it's to do with that, or maybe it's something else. I'm not really sure. Somebody in chat was just asking. This is Draco, just asking are these supposed to be the future patch notes? Basically, yes. I think it's their way of saying we're on it, which is good. I'm glad that they've done this, to be honest, because I think I said before, I'm not sure why they posted this, but that must be the reason. Then it's people are going are they ever going to fix this stuff? And it's well, it's an acknowledgement. So that it probably is good then. These are pretty interesting. So there's lighting rework for factory. I think this one came broadly from, maybe this was already planned, but I think this one was highlighted in the interview. So we'll see that in a minute. But it's good that they got that in there. Culling improvements for, various maps, shoreline, streets, woods. And then this one is big. Fix for a culling bug. I mean, I've never really talked about this, but fix for a culling bug on reserve. The player would be able to see through the walls inside D2. There's I'm not going to talk about where it is, but there's a place you can lean into a wall and you can see through the whole map. So you can see if someone's in D2, which is I know is great for some people. Because you can tell if somebody's camping down there, but it's just blatant, there's proper glitching that is, right? It's most people, even most people who are kind of whatever, it's up to the devs to fix this stuff. Players just should use all the advantages in game. Even most of those people draw the line at glitching the map usually. So it's pretty blatant and kind of ruins the experience a bit. But anyway, so apparently they're going to finally fix it. It's been around for a long time. Max off account issues on the flea market going to fix. Filter improvements, which would be nice because there's quite a few annoying filter issues at the minute. Things like the wish list, you can't put a durability or condition on in the wish list tab. So if you're trying to get a 100% water filter, you can't do that in the wish list tab. You have to go to the wish list tab, click the water filter, then go back to the normal tab and then set the filter, because otherwise it won't show up anything, which is a right pain. So hopefully that gets fixed. Fix for a bug where a player would not receive any items at the cult circle. So that's a known bug. I thought that was maybe something that if you just gave them the same recipe over and over again, because I know BSG don't really like that. So that's how you don't get any XP for crafting, for example. So I suspected that maybe it was intended, but apparently not, which is nice. Matchmaking fixes, PvE fixes for bugs in the group system, quality of life, transition to Unity 2022. So just general things that are gonna come and be fixed, hopefully. I mean, the two big ones obviously is synchronization problems with trader rep being lost and blah blah blah, and fixing Lightkeeper. Those are the two main ones. The rest of it is good as well. There's a couple of things for Arena too. Fixes for known issues interacting the armory, which I'm not. I don't actually know. It's not a known issue to me. I don't use the armory enough to actually run into that. It's the section where you kind of see like all the stuff you've got unlocked. Okay. I also thought that at first. I was just like, which bit's the armory? But it's like there's its own window where you can see like what your unlocks are for each gun, where your progression is, blah blah. I'm 99.9% of the time use just the preset window to look at everything.
Largely
the preset maker, but yeah. But the armory is kind of a bit more generalistic. Matchmaking fixes, quality of life, technical improvements, more culling stuff, the task widget. There's just like general bits. I don't think there's anything really interesting there. What was it? Yeah, balancing, fort checkpoint, rework of Equator. That's the shopping center one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of nice. And sound But I actually don't think the sound is too bad in Arena. I will say, I don't think it actually is too bad. But I'll talk about that like a lot later on. Yeah. So that's kind of the plan. That's the plan of the updates, which is good because we just know now that they are looking at these things and that they're kind of on it. I don't know whether before we jump into the Pestily thing, like we should touch on the other. Maybe we'll do the other bits first before we do the Pestily thing because it is going to take a while. There's a new event that has just started today. I don't know much about it because it was literally only posted like 4 hours ago. So I've not actually been in yet, and it's something to do with. It's something to do with like having to collect cases. There's a new quest in game. If I go to Skier, so let me just mute my game so people on stream don't have to hear me clicking about. Skier's got this new quest called "That's a Great Plan, Walter," which is, "Hello gangster, my overseas colleagues and I were working out a little deal, but things didn't seem to go to plan. We need to get shipment across town, but it's too risky to move it all at once. So they split up the big shipments into little ones and locked the cases. Even if some loser finds it, they won't be able to open it. Peacekeeper said the shipment's already in Tarkov and my guys at the drop points haven't seen it. Be a good boy and go and check it out. Scout around, and if you find our cargo, bring it here." And in the video, there's like a scav running with a backpack, and there's he gets shot by some PMCs. They go over and they go to his bag and they just pull out like a whole weapons case or something. And the PMC just says, "Yeah, I can open this in my hideout." And the other guy's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, look, I'll show you. And they just walk off. So maybe you find them on scavs. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I don't know. So yeah. That's a new event. I don't know exactly what you need to do and like where the locations are, but I'm sure stuff will pop up. It'll come up on the wiki. Just check there, and I'm sure it'll be complete. It probably is multi-part as well. These things usually are. So that's kind of interesting. And then we've got the Nikki leaks, which we'll just go through now. Starting with a bunch of screenshots for the new map that's coming with 1.0, which who knows when it's coming. Based on the way that Nikita's like talking about stuff, it almost makes me think. I've still been thinking like end of 2025, but like who knows? It could be the summer. I don't think it's now. Like it's really not going to be. I really don't think it's going to be like this wipe. No, it definitely isn't going to be this wipe based on some of the things he said. But I think it's probably a year away, most likely. There's a tiny chance that it might be the summer, but I think it's probably a year away.
You're a year away. A whole year. Okay.
I guess so. I mean, maybe it's the summer. We'll have to see what he says on like Tarkov TV for this wipe, because we haven't had that for a little bit, right? We had like Tarkov TV. The last one was before 15.5 even, so we had like both of those in Tarkov TV. So we'll see what he says about this one. But anyways, we've got Terminal here with a bunch of different screenshots, which looks really cool. I've seen a couple of before and afters of like some of the original ones that they showed, which is kind of neat. And is they've like improving the lighting and like improving detail, adding more stuff. There's a couple of things like I think the second picture, which one is it? There's the one with the big crane. That one. There's something in the background. Wait, is it that one? There's one of them that's got something in the background on the crane, and they've got this. Yeah, and they've got this picture here of the hovercraft, the last picture, which is some like I've seen some real pictures of that going around Twitter, and there's like it's a massive like Russian hovercraft like troop deployment from the sea kind of thing. It's got like 3 huge like rotor type fan things on the back, and there's a bridge, so you can probably go in it, I guess. And like, given this is terminal, maybe you escape on the mega hovercraft. Who knows? Who knows? But it looks pretty cool. I mean, everything that Nikita said about this is like a single player kind of experience. So this is sort of the end. I mean, his actual post is entitled "Terminal: The Place Where It All Ends?" So a little bit of mystery there. Don't quite know, but it looks pretty cool. We'll just have to see how that goes. We've also got, what was this one? Yeah, because they're talking about some of the other updates that they're doing. There is the customs rework that is coming, I think, this patch. And they showed a picture of the new gas station with whatever the updated lighting, textures, etc., is on there, which is pretty cool.
80% more junk on the floor.
Exactly. So more ambient, more kind of, I guess, storytelling of the location, better lighting, It's just yeah, it's just more detailed, you know, just more detailed and like slightly different optically, which is pretty cool. And I guess most of the map will be like that as well. Like the other places will also be like that. I mean, given that they're reworking the whole thing, where they've got new areas we saw previously, it's like the factory area of customs, which is new. So it's not just that, it's they're changing these things as well. So I guess it's gonna be consistent across the whole thing. Like maybe Big Red will look like super cool and stuff, and then we'll have to see. What was this next one? So there was another picture. Oh yeah, more new customs. I actually kind of missed this. I think I just like threw it down. So it's like more internal warehouses and whatnot. This was again from yesterday. I don't know the second picture. I'm not sure exactly where that is. It's like,
I mean, that's got to be new. I mean, this looks like it's almost reactor-like shape, but I don't think it is a reactor.
yeah, I know what you mean, because it could be like cooling tower type things. Because
Yeah.
they're quite iconic over in customs, right? When you see them over the wall from woods, for example, you see these cooling towers. I guess it's probably that building. I'm not sure exactly how that relates. I'm just trying to think in my head. Could be one of the new buildings opening up. I'm not 100% sure.
It just seemed too small in scale to be the entire cooling tower.
Maybe. Or it goes up into a regular chimney stack at the top. Like it could
Right.
be a cone. I mean, it looks kind of like a cone. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's another layer above that.
Yeah.
And then, it goes up into a regular chimney. So it could be like any of them, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. More interesting stuff. And then there is a new weapon that they've teased in this video that Nikita's shown. There was it's at about, so it's at like second 2, 3, 4, 5 on the video. So it starts as somebody working in the 3D asset software. So there's the MPX on the left. We know that's getting rework already, so we've seen that before. And there's some form of lever action being modeled on the right, which apparently Pesty's been asking about for ages. Like I'm not up enough on the Pestily lore to know that he's been asking about, but lots of people have said like, oh, Pesty's been asking for lever action for a long time. People speculating about caliber, could be 357. It's like a few different things it could be. Could really be anything. And then like second 10, they've got like, I guess this is the customs rework. They've got a map of customs up and they've got Big Red and RUAF extract circled on the map. And then there's a big question mark over the kind of smuggler's boat exit. So they're cooking stuff up, I suppose is the deal. There's like some new gloves near the end of the video. So like working on some new assets and whatnot. But yeah,
Maybe that's the areas that they're. Oh, yeah, I don't know what you would. Huh. Interesting.
yeah, maybe they're thinking about extracts or whatever. Because RUF is an extract, Smuggler's Boat is an extract, and then the only thing about Big Red that's like slightly different, I guess, is that there is a train that runs through it. So the train that runs past Big Red between the river and Big Red, that is the same train line as from Shoreline. I always thought that there should be a transit or a train or something that goes between Shoreline and Customs, because they do directly link, which would be cool. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We will have to see. I don't know.
I was thinking more along the lines of that was the areas that they were wanting to rework, like improve or expand upon or something. But RUF feels like nothing there resembles anything of the screenshots I've seen so far. And then same for Big Red. I don't know.
Yeah, they haven't showed anything on that side of the map, so
Like
maybe
even
they're
the stuff I
finding something
have
surprising.
seen just doesn't even fit there. There is no like cooling tower reactor like stuff at either of the spots.
Yeah. No, exactly. We've seen all the screenshots we've seen are from the factory area of the map over on the west side.
Exactly.
Not seen anything for the east. The east hasn't had much love anyway, right? The east side has existed for a long time. Factory area of customs was added mostly later. Like some of it was there, but a lot of it was added later. Big Red has been in its current iteration for ages. It's not had really much change. Do you remember when like the spawns used to be crazy Big Red? Because a couple people used to spawn over at factory area, and then like 4 people would spawn at Big Red, like 1 on each corner, and it would be like the Thunderdome around Big Red. But like that doesn't seem to happen so much now. You know, you get a lot of the time people spawning, far corner, like the Crossroads corner, or just sorry, your trailer park corner. Somebody else spawns like the opposite corner by the river, and then somebody spawns over the river by Crack House kind of area. So like people are spread out a little bit more now.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. So you don't tend to have that just like crazy fight so early at this point.
Look at this.
So yeah, I know them just like laughing about the running squished PMC. Yeah. Yep. All jokes. I think that's most of the Tarkov updates, the actual BSG updates that we know of, I believe. Yeah.
Shall we move on to the interview with, not our interview, but, not the exclusive Scat Talk interview with Nikita, but the podcast recap of Pestyly's interview with Nikita.
Exactly. Yes. Can you imagine? So there was a lot of stuff in there. It kind of went, I would say, broadly the same way as last time, but a little bit better. So previously, like the first half was Nikita answering questions, and the second half was Pestily just like telling him everything that people wanted changed. This time was broadly the same, except it was like the first 40 minutes, I would say, was them actually discussing stuff. And then the last 20 minutes was Pestily just reading off lists of things and Nikita kind of just being like, I'll check, I'm writing stuff down.
Okay.
So we'll just go through it.
How was Nikita's mood? What was your vibe?
He said that he'd only just woken up. So he was a little bit tired. But he looked, I would say, busy and a little bit stressed, to be honest. But he did. There were 2 big sections that he opened up in, and seemed quite animated and like excited about the future. So I think it was depending on what he was talking about. Like most of the stuff he was excited about was new and fun things, which I can understand, right? If you've been working on a project for so long, getting asked either like basic questions or talking about stuff that's like a bit mundane about the game is not necessarily that interesting or exciting. But then the newer things are like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of like why he does what he does. Let's be honest, right? Like Nikita doesn't actually have to do this anymore. He could just like close Tarkov tomorrow and he'd just sail off into the sunset and he'd be fine. So he probably just wants to do the things that he wants to do, right? Which is why he's like managing the company. Some of the things he talks about kind of makes sense in that aspect. And why, he's got people managing different parts of the process. But yeah, I don't know. So I'd say it was mixed, but he seems looking forward to the future. And I don't know, like I think he's like hoping that by the time they're finished that they'll be happy with what they've done. I think like completely. That's kind of my idea of it's hard to read him, right? But like that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
But it'll make more sense as we go through. So I don't know if there's any. It would probably be too difficult to like jump around and try to like group these things together. So I'm just going to keep it in the same format as Pestily, and we can kind of just like go through each part because it's interesting stuff and things to talk about. So they've been talking about this graphical rework for ages. Like he mentioned it a long time ago, like, oh, we're going to have like a graphical overhaul of the game and that kind of stuff. And Pestily asked about that, and he basically said that the graphical rework is very slow because people are working on something more important at the moment. Now, I don't know whether that means 1.0 or something else. He made it sound like something different. He alluded to it being like something else, not EFT related necessarily. So I don't know if we're going to see. I don't actually know if we're going to see a real graphical rework across like the whole game. I reckon we'll just get things like the customs rework where the map gets updated or whatever, but it's going to be like the existing engine for graphics, is my imagination. I was never sure if we were going to get a real graphical rework, and I don't know if the game actually really needs it. You know, we've debated about this before, right? Like, does the game actually need a full graphical rework? Like, I don't know. I know you'd like to do it, but I just don't know if it's possible. And it's a lot of work, and it's not really necessary, I would say. But yeah, so he alluded to this like other thing that people are doing, that his people are working on. And so Pestily asked about Russia 2028. And Nikita was just like, yeah, well, obviously we want to do it, but like it's paused at pre-production, which is interesting. So it's like, it's not that, it doesn't sound like. It's like something else. And he does talk about it later. Maybe that does make sense to talk about now. Let me see if I can find it. Where was it that he said about this? Yeah, so he was talking about, actually, maybe I will go in order. It's too messy otherwise. So Russia 2028 is paused at pre-production at the moment. Obviously, they do want to do it at some point. And there was a couple of just like different questions from Pestily, such as the ability to smoke cigarettes in game, which he said yes to. There was a question about classic Tarkov, like classic WoW, where they'd go back to, I don't know, 1211 or something, and you could play classic Tarkov. He basically said it's theoretically possible, but basically no, right? Yeah. Like the game from then, it's not saved, if you know what I mean. Like they've built upon it and worked upon it. Like they'd have to re-roll back a load of stuff to get back there. Right? Yeah. That game does not exist anymore, really. Right? They'd have to like pull back loads of stuff that they've added to make it work. So basically, no. There was, and this is actually kind of frustrating for me. There was, Pestily asked him about like skins or clothing and stuff like that, and he basically said like, no, he's not going to do any more of that at the minute, and that he's kind of scared of like doing any more monetization, like microtransactions or monetization or anything like that. He was like, we have clothes to buy in the game at the moment, and Pestily was like, well, are you going to have some more stuff? And he was kind of like, no, I'm worried about it. I'm worried about doing anything monetary at the moment. Which is like, it's a little bit frustrating for me to hear that, because I don't think anybody has criticized their microtransactions at all, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe a couple of people, but like,
I feel like there's definitely criticism with the stash stuff, where you could buy lines.
Oh, really? I mean, I didn't really care about that, to be honest, because you could already pay for that with the different editions.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel any different to me. I mean, this is the thing. I'm sure there's somebody molding somewhere still about all of this kind of stuff. And because the biggest problem, right, the reason he's scared of adding this stuff is not because of microtransactions, it's because of macrotransactions. He's scared because of the Unheard Edition debacle. Well, that's like completely different. There's like worlds apart, right? Adding PMC clothing with a Union Jack flag on it for like British players to buy is like a million miles away from a $250 edition of the game. Like these two things they're so different. It's like frustrating because and we've like the player base and the creators and whoever have like, we've said a million times like, we'd be happy for you to add some customizable things. I don't know. It's annoying for me to hear that, right? Because they're just not the same as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is what it is. Maybe he'll soften eventually. Or maybe they'll just add them for free. Maybe they don't need the money and they're just going to add them, do them and add them for free. I think the problem that people, sorry to keep banging on about this, but I think the issue is that people would rather see that stuff. Like obviously the best case for the gamer would be for this stuff to come to the game and you can just choose it, right? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's two other options. It either doesn't ever get added or it gets added for a microtransaction price. Mm-hmm. And people would obviously rather pick like being able to choose the things that you like and buy than not have them ever. Obviously, we'd like them for free, but they're probably not going to do that, right? Because they're busy doing other stuff. But again, I think I can sort of see it in some ways because it sort of folds into like, I'm not sure if they need the money that desperately. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But one one thing about, kind of back to the classic Tarkov discussion, one thing that is saved is Old Factory, because obviously it was like so recent that they replaced it. So they have Old Factory saved in a proper way, which means that they can roll it out for events or whatever. That's the one thing that they can do and bring that back.
Like how
needs
old
be.
are we talking? It's gone through a lot
Like
of
the
duration.
factory, yeah, but the factory just before the rework that we have now.
Okay, so not like the OG factory.
I don't
Before
think
the
so.
forest expansion, essentially, in the roadblock. Or the checkpoint, rather.
I'm talking about factory itself, the actual factory map,
Oh, I
not
don't know
customs.
why I was thinking about customs.
It's because we were talking about the factory section of customs a million times previously. That's the reason. Yeah. But I mean, factory itself did also have an explain, because I thought you were talking about like the medical block area or not. Because at one point the med block bit didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Factory had an expansion itself anyway as well.
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine go back to the days without the medical area?
Yeah.
Factory really was very small at one point.
Yeah.
But given they only just decided to do this, I imagine it's the one with the medical bit. I would think, because it would have been, it's the easiest thing for them to save the latest version, right? They probably weren't really thinking about it until recently, so I guess they probably have the most recent one. So that's saved, which is nice. Where Tucker will be in 5 years' time, he basically said, self-sustaining with DLCs and update patches, 5 years, whatever, of like updates, not necessarily massive stuff, but you have like DLCs to cover that, and then patches for 5 years or so, 10 years, whatever. He's talked about this like 5-10 year thing, but who really knows? And then the game loop, which I guess is kind of self-explanatory. Like, what is the actual main game loop for Escape from Tarkov? What is it in his mind? Well, the main storyline quest is to escape. That's the loop, right? You do the stuff to be able to escape. I guess you'll have to get to a certain level or do certain quests or whatever to be able to escape from Tarkov. That's the loop. You have to do a bunch of the stuff in game if you want a good ending per Nikita. So, we know there's like multiple ways to escape. There's like, I guess there's then different endings potentially. And then, as he said, you then prestige and then you start again and you play again. And that's the idea for the loop of the game. So you like play through, and I guess you can play through in different ways, and we'll have to see exactly how that works. He didn't say anything more about prestige at all, unfortunately, because he said you will see. Basically, like we know that there's some coming with this wipe. So, he was asked about customization, more customization options just in general, which he said wasn't a priority. Somebody asked him like, "Can you please add a hammer?"
Like
they were like, you've got all the other tools, but you don't have a claw hammer in the game. And he was just like, I guess. So you've got
just
every
like as a
tool.
straight up barter item. Like, please, for the sake of my OCD.
For the sake of my tool OCD.
Yeah.
You
know what
exactly.
they're gonna do there? Then you have to add a box of nails, and you're gonna have to add a plank of wood. Like,
we don't have plank of wood. We do have nails though. We have nails. Yeah, they're like yellowy packet, aren't they?
Yes, I can't picture it in my head, but yes.
It's like valuable earlier. It's like shooting range upgrade, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got it now. Got the picture.
Can we switch from Tarkov to Arena with one button? The answer is no, unfortunately, which is a shame. Yeah. And with the early wipe being super fast this time, what is his idea of how it should be in the next wipe and like what they're going to do, kind of thing? So, as you might imagine, he basically said next one should be, or like he would like it to be slower than it is now. They're going to reduce the income from Arena, and he also said you won't be able to sell your stuff on the flea quite as easily in terms of traders, like being able to buy from the traders and resell them. Like he was kind of inferring trader flipping, I think. So it sounds like they're going to put in some kind of limitation for trader flipping. I don't know what he said. He said not as easily. So it may well be the simplistic solution, which we talked about before when we talked about finding raid and all that stuff, which is the whole you buy it from the trader. It's like the typical extraction shooter answer, right? It's the one we talked about for Delta Force ABI.
Maybe buy it, take it in, cleanse it, and then once you leave the raid, then you can sell it.
Yeah, something like that. Like it either, I guess it disappears, the flag disappears on raid entry kind of thing, or on raid exit, something along those lines. I would prefer raid exit because it stops you from doing like crazy insurance shenanigans. You know, like it wouldn't work with ammo, but anything that you could insure, you buy a stack of SE5 grips, load of RK2s, like whatever it is you want, right? Insure them all, get into raid, throw them all in the river. Oh, but they're cleansed because you went into raid, and then you get it. No one ever extracts it, but it comes back in insurance,
right.
cleansed of the tag, right? So it should be. Maybe I'll message them about that actually, just in case they haven't thought about it. Like it should be on raid exit, right? Like you need to extract it. It has to be extracted by someone. It doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
Because an insured item never goes through the extraction process. So
it extracts itself. The gun just stands upright and wobbles away towards the extract.
Yeah, it's like
there is no
force
Prepper's
pull on the
henchman.
lightsaber. Just Prapple just sits in his office, and all the stuff comes sucking up out of the. Yeah, Prapple's loot magnet. Huge electromagnet on the top.
Yes, just attach this special tag to your gear, and it will. My men will find it.
Prapple's overhead satellite with a huge scrap magnet on it, and just goes straight over the map. Yes, exactly. So so apparently that's coming, which I'm like torn. I'm honestly torn. It's probably for the best. I don't think it's really at fault for ruining the wipe. Lots of people think it is. I don't think it is necessarily, but it's certainly one of the things that contributes. I don't think it's the end of the world. Like either way, if people can resell, if they can't resell, it definitely. We talked about this before. Like it definitely doesn't inflate the economy. It definitely doesn't do that because it actually deflates the economy because it's one player to another player, like within the game. And there's the flea market fee that gets lost every time those two players trade. So they're just moving rubles from one player account to another player account. There's no overall monetary gain. But what there is it's an inflation in gear quality within the world, for example. So so there's more M856A1 in the world than would otherwise have existed.
Yeah.
So that's certainly true. So it's kind of a, I don't know, but it's probably for the best. It's not really in the ethos of the game to be able to do it. So we'll see what that looks like and the mechanics and how cheesable they're going to be, because it's going to be cheesable in some way. I assure you. Kill cams, they're still working on it. Hopefully we can get it for release. He wasn't certain that they'd get it ready for that, but some delayed camera footage after the raid finishes, you'll get to see something, some view. Knowing our luck, it'll just be like the same view that you had when you died from your helmet, and you still won't be able to tell where it was that you died or whatever.
It'll be like
we'll see.
1440 or not 1440, like 144p footage from like a CCVT and like an awful angle that's got like smudged on the thing. It's like,
exactly.
There's your kill cam.
Yeah, it'll be like the Molotov video he shared that one time. What's it called? Saved with like what's it called? Something cam or whatever in the corner, like that meme.
Hypercam, unregistered
hypercam. Yeah, hypercam unregistered. Yeah. Yeah, it comes back with that.
Bitrate equivalent to 200.
Something like that. So throat hitbox, they're still thinking about it. I know people are complaining about the throat hitbox, but they haven't. They're looking at it. They're not sure what to do yet, I guest. But he was just kind of like, oh yeah, we've seen. I've seen about it. We're like looking at it. Blah, blah, blah. So I don't think they've decided yet. Pestily made a good point. Like they said, no prestige on PvE, but would they consider doing it? And he was just like, well, I guess maybe. I don't see why they wouldn't, right? But like he did say specifically, like no prestige on PvE. But Pesty's point was that the economy is like completely ruined on PvE. I haven't, I'm not level 15 on PvE, so I can't see it myself. But I get enough comments in chat, people being like, oh man, the PvP servers, like everything's so cheap when I'm on the flea. They're just like, wow, I can't believe it. Because in PvE, like when did PvE actually start? It started like, did it start halfway through last the last wipe or something, I think.
Yeah, that sounds
I don't
about
remember
right.
exactly. It was like March or April or May or
I would
something
say
around then this year.
felt like it's almost been a year. Like we're approaching a year.
I think so, yeah. And so PvE was originally obviously in its like post wipe state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the August wipe on PvP, but PvE continued on. So PvE is probably, and obviously it's a different game as well, right? It's like it's easier to extract loot out of it. I mean, so yeah, so it probably is actually. And so people have had Bitcoin farms up and running for a while, and then Bitcoin's done the crazy that it's done right
Mm-hmm.
now. Bitcoin right now in game, it just went over 100k IRL. And that influences the prices here. It's fallen a little bit since then, but Bitcoins right now in game are 1.11 ish, like 111. Yeah, well, yeah, 1.1 million roughly. It was up to 1.2, I think, at some point, but down a little bit now. But yeah, so people have had that in PV for a while. So like all the money is just like super inflated. Everyone has like tons of cash, which I guess like if you're starting out, anything that you loot is like really valuable. But then the stuff that people actually want, like GPUs and whatnot, I
Yeah.
think they're like really, really uber expensive. So
Yeah.
the things that are actually fairly scarce are like crazy expensive. Whereas like the other stuff is, it's just like basically everything's
Well,
inflated.
I mean, you
Mega inflated.
should, in theory, have it where because it's linear or the progression, you just have a constant chain of people being flown to the top and never leaving the top.
Mm.
So it's like the people at the top will probably have different demands than people just starting out. So that like heavily, and because there's presumably more people at the top, and you have more buyer and
Yeah.
sellers of that group of market.
Mm.
So I mean, I imagine the people at the bottom of the market probably get screwed the most, like the smallest percentage of players.
Yeah, if you're a net buyer of stuff, then yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. But if you're finding lots of loot, then it's probably all right. I think it depends on what kind of player you are.
Mm-hmm.
I would hazard to guess. Yeah, Ash put something interesting in chat as well. Probably a higher share of people with level 3 Bitcoin farm as
Oh
well,
yeah,
because
yeah.
labs is like significantly easier on PvE, right? Because you you don't have to deal with a combination of cheaters.
Yes.
Oh, dumb, gasp, and or people that are just like turbo good.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a fair share of people who are just turbo insane at labs. Right, we all know it. It's just how it is. So
Yeah, like
yeah,
this
there's that.
the Legend of Labs Church 1x1. I heard they're a god gamer.
God gamer. But you heard it here first. You heard it here first. So yeah, I don't know. He kind of looked like he was considering it. Considering allowing
Mm-hmm.
PV people to do the prestige. I hope they do let that happen because there doesn't seem to be any downside particularly, especially given that you're just like playing by yourself. Like you can always wipe, but like why not just add the PV content? I guess it means that somebody's got to go and add it to that version of the game because they're quite branched at this point and are like a bit different between the two.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Hopefully it's not too hard. There was asked about a skill leveling increase. He basically said no, because some people say it's too fast, some people say it's too slow. I don't think the question was nuanced enough. If it was me, I would have said, can you increase the skill, like the level of the skills that literally nobody ever gets to max? Like strength and endurance doesn't necessarily need to be increased. I know it was quite slow this wipe, and even the top players haven't got there. Like I'm 27 and 23. And yeah, clearly I don't play that much outside of the first like 10 days of wipe, right? But like even the top players, I don't think they've got to. Maybe they have now, but I know that it was a lot harder this wipe than others. But you look at like my general skills, right, and those two are still by far the highest. I'm level 63, and I have 18 health, 12 vitality, 3 immunity, 3 intellect. Charisma of 11, attention of 13, perception of 15. assault rifles is only 14, and it's basically all I use.
Mm-hmm.
Like aim drills 14. Like I aim a lot in game to be level 14 now. It's crazy. You know, covert movement level 1. Not a rat. Yeah, look at that. Surgery level 6. Right, like it's just stupid. Like it's so low. Mag drills level 7. Like it's so low.
Yeah.
And so I think the question needs to be a bit more nuanced. It's not just like, oh, you increase all the skill levels. It's like change them so they make more sense.
Yeah, it's like,
And
can we
ones that just don't get levels.
scrap the entire system and start with something fresh and new?
I mean, there's that, right? But like also just anything where the average player has like 6 or under, just like multiply the skill leveling by 10 and then see what happens.
Yeah, but
Just to start with, right?
if I had to guess, I'm guessing they can't, like, it's not just changing a value. They have to, like, write new code for that, because I'm guessing it's all global. Like, the skills, the entire skill pool gets affected.
Mm, I don't know.
That's just
Probably. Yeah, it's probably linked to your frame rate or something. It probably they tried to scale it up, and they've suddenly the extract on woods with the green flare doesn't work anymore. For just like, it's so crazy, right? The way that this game
yeah.
is.
I mean,
So,
that's an
but
assumption I'm making, of course.
it should be super easy to fix. But in our experience with BSG and the way that they make changes, we can never make those kind of assumptions, which we've definitely learned. But they should just increase the speed on some of these things.
Yeah.
Optimization. This one was also a bit upsetting. Basically, most of the conversation was about streets, right? It basically said, look, it's an ongoing problem, and we're kind of stuck on streets. We can't really make it any better. Like we're trying. Like they were even thinking about splitting it up into 2 maps, like City 1, City 2, like Streets 1, Streets 2 kind of thing, to like maybe that would help. But he was like, fundamentally, even Unity, he said, like, even Unity 2022 is not going to fix this. Like, the tools there maybe help a bit, but it's not the magic bullet for this particular problem. That's not how that's going to help here. And some of the main issues is that they're like rooted into the basis of the game's code that can't be changed. So they just have to kind of do what they can with what they have. So unless they come upon some amazing brainwave, it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to get it much better than it is now. Maybe they'll be able to tweak it a bit here and there, but it's kind of, yeah, they don't really have a great way of doing it right now, which is a shame, bit of a shame. But we'll see. He said, I think he said, like, we have time. He said we are trying. We've got time before. So we've got time before release to fix it. We're looking into how to do it, kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see. And given he said that, obviously 1.0 is not coming like this wipe, right? That's one of the comments that made me think, like, definitely isn't coming this wipe for sure. He's like, we have time to fix it before release. That doesn't mean 22 days. Right. So it's like at the very least 6 months.
Yeah.
It's plausible it could be another long wipe, an August wipe in 2025. Like that's plausible, either then or then December. Who knows? But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that, but kind of something that we suspected for a long time. Like every time FPS optimization comes on the roadmap, right? It's just everyone's just kind of like, okay, and then the roadmap comes and goes, and it's just like no FPS performance increases in sight. Everyone's like, okay, it's just that kind of how it is. But so yeah, this is one of the long sections, and if you want to go and watch it, then basically it's like 7 minutes and 40. It was Nikita talking about the zombies event. So Pestily kind of brought it up and said most people thought it was the best event that they'd ever done. 4 out of 5 people thought it was a really good event, and 1 out of 5 people thought it was absolutely awful and hated it. Right, which is not surprising. He said he'd done a bunch of polls and whatever. That sounds about right to me. He basically just asked him, like, were they testing multiple instances and yada yada, like this kind of thing. And he said yes and no. He said it was a test of like many different things, a test of a different game mode, a test of different instances, etc. And he was talking about how like the zombies in particular are a test of like a simplified AI or a simplified like player, like AI controlled player, which is simpler in the sense that it doesn't have like any inventory or items or anything like that, right? It's not just a clone copy of a PMC. Because if you have ever used some of the websites that usually, I mean, I don't really mind about them, but there's kind of a little bit on the grey borderline of the Tarkov community, like Tarkov.dev, where you could like see what players actually hold and stuff. Like, if you copy paste a PMC and use that, even if these things are blank, I think you've still got, the full kind of definition of what a PMC is, including all skills, all inventory, everything. Right, there's a lot of just information there to be passed back and forth, and I think because of the way some of these base things work, as Nikita's alluded to in this interview, as well as in the past, a lot of that stuff can't really be changed. It's like baked into how this stuff works, is why it's been so difficult for them to obfuscate what's in boxes and things like that, for example, right? It takes like quite a big rewrite, and to try and do that without breaking other stuff is quite difficult. So it is the reason why cheaters, for example, can see like what level you are, what you have on you, what skills you are, and all this stuff, because it's just like transmitted to everybody. And that has some implications for performance and stuff, right? It's not just like fetch on request. It's just constantly being broadcast. So anyway, these zombies are like a simplified test instance without any of this information, which is kind of cool. Because he said originally when they tried looking at doing the event, they could only have like a maximum of 30 of these entities, as well as the usual players and whatnot on the map. That was it. And I don't know how recently that was. So they had to like basically do a bunch of workarounds to get more entities into the game. I mean, he could even be talking back as far as streets. I don't know, because back then he was talking about 50, 100 characters, in the raid at any one time. But he was like, yeah, if you do like a dirty workaround, this produces issues elsewhere, right? It's like it's problematic. So you have to kind of like do a robust workaround to stop it from just breaking everything. But he seemed quite happy with the results. This is like one of the sections of the interview that he seemed like very happy about. He did say, he was like, yeah, the event probably was a little bit too long, honestly. They could have shortened it down a bit, but it worked quite well. The team apparently really enjoyed seeing like hollow point rounds, shotguns, like large capacity mags with like flesh damage being used in the game. So it's like kind of cool to see an event where like half this stuff is actually just relevant. A different style of gameplay. Yeah, and it'd be relevant, which is really good. So he seemed like really happy about that. And then he also said like it's quite nice in terms of lore. So they wanted to see, so one thing he said, they wanted to see whether they could just produce a high quality event in 2 months, which they did. But it also fits nicely within Tarkov's like lore, because they have like Terror Group labs, and it's like Tarkov's like near future sci-fi. He was like, it's actually opened the door for like a lot of other stuff like that, kind of along the same route, where it's like, oh, experiments gone wrong, like futuristic, like tech or whatever, turning people into zombies, that kind of thing. He was like, it's actually opened up a lot of doors for that sort of thing because of the way that it fits into the EFT lore without being too. He's like, obviously we're not gonna have like space aliens and like crazy stuff, but that sort of like near future sci-fi type stuff like fits really well into the lore, and actually is like people embrace it and think it's cool. It's fitting, right? It allows you to branch off and do some interesting stuff. So he seemed cool about it. And this is where he mentioned that they as a team basically made the extraction shooter genre and created this whole new subgenre of like game within FPS, one on from Battle Royale. He didn't say that, but they did. And he's been thinking about a new game mode, which could also be like a new subgenre that he's thinking about and like excited about, and that they want to make something new with the experience that they have as a team. He was like, we've, as much as you guys have been like stressing in the game and like, breaking your brains playing this game, we've also been stressing and depressed about development, and, got through the struggle of development and blah, blah. And with that experience, they want to make something cool, knowing what they know now. And I think this sounds to me like the thing he talked about at the start. The graphical rework is slow. His people are working on something more important at the moment. I think it's this. And I don't think it's Russia 2028 either.
Yeah.
I think it's something else. I don't know what it is, but it sounds, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. It's something. There's something in this. So
that's cool.
Keep your eyes peeled for like a new game mode that the world has never seen before popping up. Because I guess they also have, now they have experience of making, I know they used all the same assets and stuff, but they've made 2 games now. Arena is different enough for them to have been able to start with something from the beginning-ish. I know a lot of the hangovers are still there in Arena because they used probably too much of the code base, but that was just the easiest way to do it. So maybe they do actually get to start from scratch and make something new and cool. Like that'd be interesting to see. Battle State Games create something brand new. It'd be very interesting to see like how that is, how that does, how it performs, like what it looks like, the design choices or whatever. Because as much crap as they do get, I do think, and I've said this before, I do think that the newer features that they've added to the game have been really good.
Oh
Some of the
yeah.
stuff like presets is whatever, but like some of the other things that they've added, like we said about mag packing and like the search filters through like the little drop downs on the body and the way some of the other stuff has been added, it's actually been like good and been added in like nice ways, like some of the quality of life things. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. I mean, we'll see. I'm just intrigued to know what it is. But yeah, he wasn't telling anything too crazy. So we're starting to get into the point where, well, nearly. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. So there's a bit about boss spawns. He said basically they've got like Pestily asked him about like map modifiers, modifiers for each one. He said that there's something planned for increased chance, rotating spawn rates, something along those lines. He didn't say exactly what they were going to do, but something along the because the boss spawn has been talked about a lot, right? And we talked about it a lot. Just the RNG-ness, having an ability to feel that you can interact with it in some way, so that on the day it's on customs, you think, oh, I'll fire up the game and go and get my Bishala kill or whatever, right? And that kind of thing. You feel like you've got some agency. And he said, this is kind of like where he was talking. He talked like a lot about a bunch of stuff. This is the second section that he seemed like really passionate about. He basically said maybe we'll add something like that as well for the release of the game, because we need something to actually add to like 1.0. He was just like, the release of the game is not like necessarily groundbreaking for
Yeah.
old players, right? Like
We're done.
yeah, exactly. He was like, it's not necessarily groundbreaking. Like there needs to be stuff that goes in 1.0. Like obviously there's terminal and all the other stuff, but he was just kind of like, he talked a lot about how they like to surprise and add stuff that's worth adding for each wipe that people don't know about. But obviously if he tells people about them now, then it's not a surprise. So then it's not as impactful when the patch actually comes. So we can't say about them at the moment. But he wants to add like a bunch of stuff for 1.0 that makes it worthy of being the release version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, he was like, it's clearly not going to be like super groundbreaking. He said it's more like he said it'd be more like a graduation. It's like they've done all the work up until now, and then it's like okay, we're kind of done with the core of the game. It's going to go to 1.0. He said a lot of these companies they spend 50% of the budget on the dev work, and then the other half gets spent on marketing for the release of these things. And he was just like, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it. We're going to release the game, but like intelligently. We want to do it in a smart way, like a good way, a nice way. We don't want to be like crazy hype, like go out, market everywhere about the release. That we don't want to do it like that. But he was just like, we have nearly like 300 employees now. Once it's done, I will. He said I'll release the budget for it, and it's like he said it's unexplainable. But he was like, it's like basically mind blowing. He was like, it's kind of unexplainable even for me how big the budget is for this game. He was like, people will understand then, like how much work has gone into this kind of thing. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he just sounded like very passionate about finishing. So it was one of the sections he talked for quite a long time about. It was probably like 10 minutes or something about about like making something that is worthy of adding to the world and this kind of thing. It was interesting.
I was just gonna
Go for it.
say, I feel like if I was in Nikita's shoes, I would just like be more than ready to be done with the project, And
So many years.
yeah, well, that's the thing is it's not just so many years like in development. It's like so many years in development while also for like half of those 10 years. Because like we're almost at 10 years here. What are we at? 8
Mm-hmm.
right now?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But like half of that 8 years, maybe more than half, have basically been also developing a game while running a live service game. Like, I mean, events were like kind of a new thing towards like the latter 2/3 half of the development stuff, but like that's pretty live service gaming. They do all these like, at least the podcast type, or sorry, the Tarkov TV type stuff, which is like kind of, I didn't really see a lot of that. It's interesting because I feel like some of this stuff is like you don't really see a lot in other industries, but now, like when BSG first did Tarkov TV, it felt like I didn't see a
Hmm.
lot of that type of stuff in other, I say industries, and other like dev studios and whatnot. Like it probably did exist, whereas
Yeah.
now, fast forward, it feels like it's a lot more prevalent. Like everybody's doing some type of, whether it's their own, interview podcast thing, Q&A, but it's like, there's like a production behind it.
Yeah.
It's not like the game journalist comes and does an interview. It's like in-house production and stuff. So I don't know. Point being is I can, if the sentiment from Nikita is like, we're just, we want to be done so we can do, move on to the next thing, and, put a final pin in this, nail in this
Hmm.
coffin or whatever. Not in like a somber note, but like I imagine it's just like, it's like been a mixture of like labor of love and also like a labor of torment.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think it's both, right?
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's such a long time. It's like a
Yeah.
decade or
Hmm.
whatever. It's just, yeah, it's just crazy. What's interesting to me, like people, from what I've seen, people tend to work on like sort of 3 to 5 year cycles. It usually seems like people are like super passionate about stuff, but you can only really do that for like 3 to 5 years, and then people kind of want to do something else.
Yeah.
And this sort of seems to be the same thing. I mean, fair enough for sticking with it, up until now. I guess it's like his baby, so he does want it to actually be finished.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I can see it. I can see it. I think like if there's some kind of succession plan or whatever where he can just put somebody else in charge of it and then like run the studio for the next project, that's probably the best way, right? Because then you can get somebody who is also kind of, I guess it depends what they want to do, because I know they're going to be adding these DLCs and stuff, so I don't know how much he's going to be involved in that. Maybe that's the things he wants to do. Like he doesn't want to think about it operationally day to day, but wants to like be looking at these new things.
Yeah. I could totally see
And
that.
yeah, and somebody else can be doing the other stuff, because like a lot of the things, he said, look, I've not, I don't know everything about the game. I haven't been like that for years. He's got people managing each different part. So some of the stuff
Hmm.
Pestily was asking him, especially the second section of the cast, he's just like, I'll need to check, because like other people look after these things, especially micro balancing stuff, but even some of the other features or whatever, he's just like, I just don't look at that anymore. So
Yeah.
I'll go and check. I've like people looking at this. So yeah, it's it's interesting. So just the last bits, I'll just like whiz through, because these parts he didn't really have a response for. He was just kind of talking, mostly as well. Pestily was mostly talking as it went on. They did have a bit to say about doing a lighthouse rework. I mean,
Oh God,
Nikita was just
yes.
kind of, yeah, Nikita was just
Praise
kind of like,
Nikki.
he was like, yeah, it needs. He said it's very narrow, it's very tight. We've been thinking about what to do. He was like, one radical idea he had was to like dry the ocean out to reveal more land out on that shore. But then
Interesting.
he was like, but then we have to dry the ocean out on shoreline, and then it's like a ton more work. So I was like, so I
Mm.
don't know. So he's agonizing about what to do about it. But at least it's like it's on his mind
Yeah.
now. So he's thinking about doing that, which is good, thank God. Um, Factory lighting, which we saw was actually on the list. Right, they posted the list like after the interview, I think, and factory lighting rework is like on the future updates list. It like made it to that list that we talked about right at the start. So he admitted again, it's too dark in certain places. Some, like as Pestily said, some places can be dark, but like up in the office corridor, if there's like lighting and stuff, like it shouldn't be that dark in certain areas. And he kind of agreed. They talked about polls. He wants to do more polls, and Pestily was like, you guys should just do more polls. And he was like, we want to do more polls. And then he was like, I've got a proposition for you. How about this? How about like you guys submit questions to us for us to put out to poll? He's like, most of the polls, like I have to write, I'm thinking of what to put in there. Or like someone at VSG is like thinking of what to write in there. Like, why don't you guys tell us what you want to know from the player base? And we'll think, we'll pick some of them and put them in the poll. which would be cool. And Pestily was like, you need to have public results if you do that. And he said, yeah, okay. Was the recall changed last wipe at all, like for this wipe, after the recall rework? And he said, no change at all. Because Pestily was like, lots of people were speculating, discussing whether it had or whether it hadn't or whatever. And he said, no, there's been no change. He was like, yes, I know. I showcased this new thing on the stream and everybody freaked out or whatever. He said, it's always the same. People are, have they changed this? Have they changed recall? Have they changed whatever? So yeah, apparently no change there. And then, there's like loads of other stuff. So he was going to check on suppressors, the conversation about 100 meters and the maps feeling dead. He was going to check on that. He was asked about removing boss kills from Kappa just to like fix the boss thing. He said he'd have a look. People want to pack mags without being in the menu the whole time. Also sort money into cases, use the search in stash, use the traders in the queue. The only comment he had was like hideout in the queue is not really possible because they have to unload the hideout to load the game. So you can't really do it. But maybe traders, we might be able to use traders in the queue. That was always what I thought, right? I always thought like traders and fleet, but no hideout. Like hideout was always going to be hard because it's an actual, unless you like deconstruct it so that it's just the menu interface. It's like you got to like redo the whole thing to make it like a mobile friendly version or whatever. Because that's effectively what it is without a some kind of overlay. There's new hideout modules that are coming, but he wouldn't tell us what. The cat is still planned. He was asked about a tool bench spot, so like a tools spot in the hideout, so the tools go back in the spot. You put them in the hideout thing, and then you just auxiliary items go back there. He said he'd have a think. He understood the concept. Was like maybe. There was a bit of discussion about PvE. So he said there's not much focus on PvE dev-wise right now, and he said, it's about 50-50 PvE versus PvP, which I assume he meant like at the minute, which is sort of an interesting data point. I don't know how many people there are playing right now, but he said it's about half and half. But then he said, obviously, it depends on the time or whatever, because he said, like, at the beginning of a wipe, like, most people play PvP. It's like the beginning of this wipe, most people playing PvP. And then people start switching to PvE later, and it kind of scales off and, like, moves into, more people playing PvE at the end of a wipe. And he doesn't mind what people play. They're going to add VF to PvE eventually. Maybe add the ability to play on BSG servers if they want to, for people who have issues with frames on, imagine, Lighthouse, for example, if you're running that on your own PC, because at the moment, only Streets runs on the BSG server. Everything else runs on your local machine, unless you're playing co-op. But if you would like the ability to play on BSG servers, if you have a weak PC and you want to play Lighthouse, for example, or Shoreline, and you don't have a good PC, maybe you could play on their server. They said maybe. Pestily also said remove the ping limit for PvE. Like people, it shouldn't matter. Like on PvE, you should be able to play with whoever, like anywhere in the world. Which again, they would think about it. There was a little bit about achievements, about moving the event achievements to their own thing. Apparently, WoW, they're called feats of strength, so it allows you to 100% complete the game. And then there's feats of strength, which are like separate, which is like one-time things you can only get if you were there at the time for the event. But it still allows you to 100% the game, because feats of strength are like not part of like the 100% completion.
Right,
kind of thing, which feels a bit more fair. So he was like, maybe. The hardcore, there's a hardcore mode. I mean, he said before it might be one of the prestige like choices, right? Like the hardcore. He said it's still in design at the minute, and maybe they could bring the zombie mode back at some point. They actually like unrolled it out of the game, so they'd have to like do it separately as its own mode in the future or something. So he said maybe in the future they could do it. The mobile app's still in concept stage, so nothing crazy there. Then Pestily asked him about Lightkeeper in particular and said he'd check with the team. And he basically also just said the most important thing that they need to fix is the sync between the two, not losing rep. Nikita was like, it was kind of annoying, right? Actually, this one, like he said, we're making sure it's being fixed. It's like a priority. But he was just like, we don't have any like to fix it, you'd have to like have a profile backup or whatever. Basically, the situation was just like, we don't have any profile backups for anything, so we can't ever roll back trade a rep or whatever. And he was just like, most likely it won't happen again, and there's a wipe happening soon, so it doesn't really matter. Just like, okay, dude, like, okay. So if there is a problem again, don't think you're going to get it rolled back, because they don't even have the ability. They have no interest in building the ability. They're not going to build the ability to roll you back. So if you get rolled back, it's a beta. Suck it up. pretty much. Which is like it's a bit annoying, right? Like how hard would it be? But I don't know. I don't know. And that was it. So there's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot there. But I went through everything, tried to look at the most important things that he's been asked as well, document it with timestamps for the best interview. Because I don't know whether I'm not sure if I'm going to make something on it or not. Like there's so much like bitty information about EFT right now, and I'm just kind of like, this end of wipe is like hard, and it's like part of me wants to make a video and talk about some of this stuff, but part of me also doesn't want to. I don't know. I'm like torn right now about things.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like it's extra hard this cycle in particular because it's just so. I mean, Nikita kind of just reeled his hand a little bit. It's like, the game's gonna wipe anyways. Like, this wipe is a fake wipe,
Kind of, yeah. It was like a test wipe, right? It's just like, well, it's a test wipe for Arena, the progression, the linkage. Like, if it breaks, we did say it was a beta, so there you go.
Yeah.
Which, as I have been well documented to say previously, I think don't think it's a good description of the game these days. As we both said, it's a live service game really now, not a beta like they would like it to be, or like to hide behind that tag. I don't think it's a sensible metric for the game. It's like, it's a live service game in update, right? It's like, it's not like the game's unplayable and then they like take it down for a bit, right? The servers never go down.
Early access, I could be fine with as a label, but beta is like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, why are you doing events? So they like, like what's going on there? What's going on with the what is it called? An edition?
Yeah.
What was that edition called? I can't. Secret.
Which one? Which edition?
What's the?
Well, the new one, the Unheard edition.
Unheard, yeah. What's going on with the Unheard edition? Like that's
the Unhinged edition. Yeah.
What are you testing different packages? Well, you got your data for that one. Like what's beta about that? Like, you know what I mean? There's nothing beta about that.
Yep. So I don't know. I don't know. It is what it is. But at least we know where we stand. I'll never be getting that fence rep back, I tell you. 2.29. God damn it. Oh well. So that was that. That was the big thing. The big discussion. What else did we have on the agenda? Meme or meta. We should do that because we're gonna have to finish up like early-ish today. So let's just quickly whip through that. I don't have quite as much time as usual, so we'll have to do it. We'll have to be like really short. So let's whip through meme or meta, and then we can get through like the last few bits.
I kind of want to skip meme or meta and save it for next week.
Okay. Because you want to do it proper justice.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. All right. We'll do it proper
I honestly
justice.
just want to talk about Delta Force for a little bit. I feel like I'm Tarkoved out already. That was a long segment to get through.
It was
and
long.
There's lots of like bit information, like
death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. It wasn't anything like super hype personally for me in there. It was just a lot of like little things. Some of the more bigger stuff was like up at the front, but it wasn't anything that's like, this changes literally everything.
Yeah, again, why it's kind of hard to like want to make something about it. I'm like,
right.
I only want to make something about things that I think are, I don't want to just say stuff for the sake of saying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like a terrible thing as a creator or whatever. Like you always need to just be Twitter. It's why I'm awful at Twitter, to be honest. It's literally
just
my job.
Just say stuff.
So I'm terrible at Twitter. It's just like you literally just shotgun out tweets until eventually one hits. That's the way Twitter works, but it's why I'm terrible at Twitter. But anyway, I don't want to do that. What happened to my fence? Someone was just asking in chat, what happened to your fence rep? I opened Arena and it got halved. Is the short story. That's all there is to know. Because of one of these bugs. Right, they updated Arena. I opened it. I went back to Tarkov. I had half my fence rep that I had before. That's basically it. That's it. That's all there is.
I saw you logged in Arena. He was like,
yeah.
We'll
no one knows why.
Do that again.
A bunch of people opened up Arena one time, and then they've got level 1 and 2 traders. at level 60. And then you can't really fix it. For example, but don't worry, it's just beta. It's wipe soon. It's fine. It's wipe soon. Don't worry about it. I don't know. I think it's a bit. I think it's a bit dispassionate, or not compassionate. I don't know what the opposite of that is, but I've just made a word for it. It's not very understanding of people who may have played, multiple 100 hours in a wipe, and then they basically can't really play anymore, and there's not really any way to fix it. I think it sucks a bit, but
and it's like,
lack of empathy.
It probably won't happen
lack
again. And if it
most
does,
likely won't happen again. And if it does, don't worry, it's a wipe soon. And it's also a beta.
Yeah.
I'm literally staring at the title screen right now, and it says, "Attention! This is a beta version of Escape from Tarkov. The beta version does not represent the final quality of the product. Thank you for your understanding and support. Good luck." Anyway, whatever. That was the one of the small parts that annoyed me a little bit, but just a couple little bits. Like overwhelmingly, I enjoyed the interview. I thought it was great. You like hearing his thoughts on the game. That's fine. Obviously, I also disproportionately pick out the bits where I'm just like, that's annoying. That's annoying. That's annoying.
Of course, right? Yeah.
Who doesn't? So there you go. But I enjoyed 95% of it. I enjoyed listening to. I thought I'd just make that clear. Right. Before we do any more Tarkovy stuff, do talk about Delta Force before we run out of time.
All right, cool. Delta Force. Speaking of things that are not in beta, at least I think it's not in beta. Delta Force.
Didn't they release?
I believe so. I believe it's I'm actually 90% sure it is the official release, because good God, I was trying to find a video that was talking about something new, and I went to their YouTube channel, and for the past week, they've been releasing 3 to 4 videos daily throughout the past week. So if you go to their YouTube channel right now, it's just there's a trailer for literally anything and everything that's in the game. It's brand new season pass skin, brand new hype event. It's just oh my God, I can't find the video.
Brand new dust moat on the starter map.
Exactly. I'm not even joking. But yeah, so it released, and I was I actually wasn't really on my radar, but a couple of my friends were talking about it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll download it. You guys are gonna play it, I'll play it. Because we played it, and the big takeaway for me last time I played is that it was, it was fun. It was kind of interesting. You kind of had this hero shooter-esque element mixed in with the Tarkov stuff, along with there was a battlefield mode, which didn't really interest me as much, but that was fine too. I'll take it. But the big thing that was detrimental to the experience was the bot. Not Scav AI. When I say bots, I mean PMC bots. For some reason, I guess the logic was, we're going to do a closed beta test to help facilitate lobbies being full and match times being low. Let's throw in bots, right? Our own AI. And it sucked so much, because the PMC bots were way more difficult. They were basically boss AI. So they would just spot you from 100 meters away and just throw god nades and just burst you. And mind you, you were way more likely to get these bots if you played the harder maps, and the because they had a map where you go to the map, right, and it's oh, do you want to play the easy version of the map, or the normal version of the map, or the hard version, right? And you kind of have these modifiers, and then you also have ranked or unranked. It's a little much, but point being, if you the higher up in difficulty you went, you would be there'd be less people doing that in this closed beta, so you'd be guaranteed to get bots. So basically, and one of the maps was there is no easy mode option. So essentially, one of the maps was basically your squad versus bots, and it was just not fun. It was just miserable, because they were just way too overtuned. They had good gear, because there was a gear score thing or something, and it was just awful.
Yeah.
And I was yeah, I can't, I don't want to, if they remove the bots, check out this game again. And then that was they had an overwhelming amount of feedback about that, and so they're yep, we're gonna remove the bots. And we played it now, and it feels great. We're just wow, this game feels so different. It feels like we're playing an actual video game and not like, some horrible Terminator Skynet simulator. Like it was we've had a like really positive experience. It's really fun with the team fights or like the squad fights, and then kind of like doing the extraction shooter stuff, but also like using your kit and abilities and healing, and because you can res your teammates, like so it's nice because if you die once, it's not the end of the world, assuming
Yeah.
you're with a team, because then you get knocked, so you got like a knockdown state, and you can be res in that state. But then if you get fully killed, then you're kind of like out, right? You think, but no, they can actually go to your body and resuscitate you. It's a longer resuscitate, and then you're back. However, you're back, but your max HP is now capped. Like you lose 20% of your max HP or
Okay.
something. I don't know what it is.
Fine.
And if you go down again and get killed, you're done, dunzo. You get one extra life and that's it. So,
Well,
which makes definitely you gotta like engage a certain way. We've learned like we had gotten to one fight. We were stalking the squad that was doing like an objective that like spawned a bunch of AI, and they were getting shot at by another squad. We thought, or we got into like a good position, and we're like, all right, take down the guy on the bottom. It's like 3, 2, 1, and lit him up, and he went down, and then the fight kind of got like broken up a bit, and but it was a longer fight, and then another squad came in, etc. And I guess point being is like the fights kind of like play out a bit more longer, and so they're kind of a bit more strategic in that sense. Like you just can't kind
mhm.
of just like go in Rambo mode, 2 seconds, but you still dive pretty quick. Like the time to kill is low, but so yeah, I don't know. It's been a lot of fun. Like I think I woke up this morning and was like, got the force. Just like that was the first thing that popped into my head. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. In this new like 1.0 incarnation, I see like everybody's playing it. Like
Oh really?
from what I've seen, there's like a mixed reception. Like some people have played it and gone, "No, I don't like it." Some people have played it and gone, "Oh, this is amazing." It's like kind of mixed about it. I saw like Nice Guy didn't like it very much. There's like a bunch of other people who are liking it. I know Jesse likes it a lot. Like it just depends on what you like out of games. Like
Yeah,
it's obviously more arcadey. It's somewhere else, it's somewhere between like like Call of Duty DMZ and Tarkov.
absolutely.
It's like something like that, which is it's I think it's good for what it's trying to achieve personally from what I've played so far.
Hmm.
That was in the previous test. I have seen there's like a bit of drama about it that's popping up because of their anti-cheat and the way that the anti-cheat works on it. They're like, I don't think they're necessarily getting review bombed. I wonder what it is right now. I know a load of people put
Is
in
it
like
because it's
because it's
kernel
on
level?
Steam. It's not just because it's kernel level, it's because it's got like probably the most restrictive. I don't know any other game that does it like this. Maybe there are, but I don't know. It's got like prohibited whilst running the game, and this is in the list. This is just from Twitter, so hopefully this is not like misinformation. Let me see if I can find it on the actual site. Where is it? There should be a. Is there like an extra information? Oh, now it's playing sound. Why are you not automatically? Why are you not automatically off Steam? That's super annoying. How do you find more details on this kind of thing? MMO, Delta Force is back. I don't know where this is from. Basically, there's a screenshot from the Steam one. It says prohibited whilst running the game. DMA bridges, KM box, fuses, screen splitters, synchronizers, USB drives, hardware macros, development boards, analysis software, process monitor, anything capable of simulating keystrokes like auto hotkey, virtual machines, remote control desktops, team viewer, Moonlight Sunshine, streaming tools, frame capture tools, like a billion things. It's like you're going to boot up Windows and then you're going to just play Delta Force. Don't open anything. Now, whether this is a big deal or not, I personally don't really care,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some, I feel like that ship has kind of sailed, in general. I'm pretty much every single one is using kernel level anti-cheat anyway. Like almost every game is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a term that's like thrown around willy-nilly negatively, despite the fact almost every single
Yeah.
every single game requires this now. Like it's sort of, I get it that they're trying to stop people from hacking, right? So that's the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
think some people's
definitely,
accusation is that it's like something more malicious than that, right? Like it gives them the ability to do more stuff. Some people saying, "Oh, it doesn't go away when you install the game and stuff." I don't know how much truth there is in that. I've just seen a bit of drama. That's all.
yeah. I mean, some of that's definitely true. Like it doesn't, because it is. I'm honestly I'm not too. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm talking about this stuff. But that's what I've
Yeah,
heard is like, yeah, once it's kernel, it's like it's kind of there. Like you have to like wipe Windows, my understanding, to have that removed, so to speak. But
I think it depends.
I don't
It
think. Yeah, I
depends.
don't know. I don't know. Either
Hmm.
way, I don't have it. Like I don't really care until it affects me. Like I'm just gonna be. You know what I mean? It's just like that's just how I feel right now.
Yeah,
Like I'm using Riva tuner, which like
yeah,
um displays frames and like caps frames and stuff, and like I don't have any issues. Like I don't know, like I don't really know what they're on about, and like some of the stuff you mentioned in that list is just like yeah, like why do I need to? Why would it need? Like why are you playing the game on a virtual machine? Like that just seems kind of malicious, like. I mean,
yeah. And this
I'm
is the
sure
thing. It's
there's
like
like
there's
there's
reasons
like
why,
gonna
like,
be like
hmm,
one person out of like a million that's like, oh, I have this weird setup and I have to do this, but like, sorry, like,
yeah. The main one I've seen previously is people who are like software devs,
mhm.
and then they boot up the game, and then I mean I don't know whether this is maybe it just won't load, which is hopefully the way it is. But I know I've seen stuff before for other things where people boot up a game and it's just like you're banned, and it's like, oh crap, I had the virtual machine running for work,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing, which is like annoying, right?
That sucks.
So, but yeah, I mean, I kind of am on that same line as well, right? Like most of this stuff, like why would you be running that kind of thing? Like, hopefully, it's a double edged thing. It's just like, do you trust them that they're doing it for anti cheat and go like, you should be closing these things for the benefit of the broader gaming community, or do you not trust them? And as per some of the comments, it's just like, why aren't I allowed Process Explorer? I want to be able to see what your game's doing while it's running on my machine, kind of thing. Um, it sort of depends on which side you come from on
Yeah,
it. But as I said, I feel like that ship for me that ship sailed. I'm just not that. I just don't do anything enough interesting to
I get you.
warrant the over paranoia, and
Right,
like
right.
you just can't really exist online
Yeah.
if you're worried about that kind of stuff. I used to have there was a person I used to work with who was like very worried about that kind of thing, and they just like wouldn't install half the apps on their phone, wouldn't use WhatsApp, or you had to like send him SMS messages and stuff because he wouldn't use any of the modern apps because of like he'd like read through the terms of service like properly and be like, no, I can't use this one, no, I can't use that one. It's just like, I mean, that's your choice, I guess, but like you spend your
Yeah.
life worrying about like TOS, which is like, I get it. If that's what you're into, then fine.
Mm,
But my personal experience is life's too short.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so it's been good so far. I'm pleased. Have they changed it much since the first iteration? Is it broadly the same? Because I mean, to be fair, the game was quite polished when it first did the
Yeah. I
tests.
mean, that's the
So
thing. Is like it's. Uh, I mean, there's new stuff, but like major significant changes, not really. I mean, the core is really there. I mean, they got more fleshed out economy, um, both like in game, but largely what it was referred to as like the actual monetization of the game is more like fleshed out. Like skins and all types of shit. Like I just don't even know what there's like so much like free. Like I mean, this is pretty classic. So for context, the developers are the same people that made Call of Duty Mobile,
okay.
so they have like experience in
Hmm.
this. Um, but the train of thought that this friend was explaining to me was like, it seems like for this game, for right now, especially, they're targeting a more Western style of audience.
Yeah.
And likely he suspects they're going to do a mobile release, which will probably be in China first and then to the larger, rest of the world, I guess.
That makes sense. They should do that, really. That's the sensible way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more sensible to do mobile first. Because did you know that Call of Duty Mobile was like the highest grossing game by far? I forget the numbers, but it was like just
Really?
ridiculous. Yeah, it's insane. So, anyways, at least I'm pretty sure that's true. That was just word of
Activision
mouth.
Blizzard's. When was this? This was. Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, fact check me
This one
because
was
now I'm
like.
curious.
Yeah, this was like. That was 2023. Actually, I guess that would only have come out now, I suppose. Let me see if there's a new one. Call of Duty Mobile hits 1 billion downloads in 5 years, remains the second top grossing mobile shooter globally.
Oh, what's the number
Says
one?
here.
PUBG?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I can't click on this link because it's so slow to load. It's probably full of ads.
Let's see. Highest grossing game 2024. Will it include mobile games? Is the question. Top grossing PC and console games, and
Oh, it is top. It is PUBG Mobile. You're right.
okay, huh? Which probably makes sense because I feel like that is way popular across the global sector.
Yeah, I mean,
Global market.
this is top 10. There was a chart they've got like top 10 mobile shooters of 2024 by IAP revenue so far via App Magic is the source. And it's got Call of Duty Mobile at number 2 at 262 million, and PUBG Mobile at the top with $1 billion.
Wow.
Like 4 times the amount. Holy moly!
Yeah, I think that makes sense because
It made $1 billion like this year. PUBG Mobile, like that's crazy.
yeah, mobile's it's ridiculous.
Is
I
it
mean, it makes sense.
it any wonder? Is it any wonder that mobile, microtransaction, why that world has exploded, right? Like it's where all the money is.
Yeah, and it's
Is it any wonder?
Basically directly carried over to non-mobile markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it makes cash hand over fist.
Yeah. So
Tarkov Mobile coming soon.
Yeah, if you're susceptible to these types of strategies, because you definitely get a ton of free stuff. Like you're actually just like they take the bottle of dopamine and just like unscrew the cap and just like pour it, doused you in it, and
sauce you up.
But as you keep moving up progression, you don't get. Now they're putting the cap back on. Now they're just squirting it on you, and then now they put the as you keep moving up, now they're just giving you little drips, and it's like, oh my god, if I buy the battle pass, I'm level 67. I'll get all this free stuff. So I don't know if you're like susceptible to that type of stuff. Maybe stick with Tarkov or something, some other game. But I don't know. I really like the game thus far. It's been a very positive experience. Like, yeah, just them removing the bots, just like infinitely, because now we can actually play the labs like map. Because before it was just all bots. Like it'd be a miracle if you could get a player on there.
Right.
And because of that, we can actually use tactics that are like player tactics and not like bot cheat gimmick strategies. Like now we can rat, now we can actually play the game how it's meant to be played. Sitting in the extract waiting for the Giga chat to come.
The new delivery mechanism.
Yeah. But it's fun. Yeah. It's fun. The quests are pretty substandard Tarkov-like quests, but they're just vehicles to get you to level faster and get you more rewards.
And it doesn't matter so much because, as we said previously, right, there's stuff to do when you load in. So the map is like interactive enough. That's why it's more like that's why it's like DMZ in some ways. Because
that's a very good point. Yeah, the DMZ Incorporation
just like
is really smart. There's like,
Mm.
oh man, there's like just some things that I don't remember being in the beta, but you could go up to the concrete mixer, the giant truck that's got a giant tank of concrete being mixed, and you could cut it on and start mixing the concrete. I'm like, why is this an interactive thing? And then loot will fall out the back, like duct tape and like, metal pipe. I was like, oh, piece of candy. It's just like, but there's a lot of little stuff like that that I like. There's like interactivity in the map, and the DMZ missions being put in there, just like really, there's a lot of cool stuff. And now when you do the mission because it gives you money, and then
Mm.
you get the money and you can extract with it, or you can use that money to take a money extract. It's like how you do the paid extracts. But if you die, like if you wipe a squad, you can actually see their mission money, and you could take that for
Oh,
yourself, which is interesting. So now it's not like, once that resource has gone off the map, then it's gone forever. It's like, no, it's tied to the person. That's kind of neat. And
that's cool.
the other thing I was going to mention that I reminded myself of is how they've cleverly done wipes. Because there's always this kind of weird dichotomy where it's like, oh, some people want wipes, but then some people don't want wipes. It's like,
Hmm.
what do we do there? Well, what they've decided to do is with each season, there's an optional wipe your character. And should you
Right.
choose to do that, I think you only get one opportunity to do this or something, but then you get to play as a boss on the map. So they've incentivized you to wipe your account each season, and doing so, you get to be a boss on the map.
Interesting.
I cannot wait to like. This is the thing that I was like, DSG, please let me play as Killa once. Like, how many? I just feel like like a lot of players, probably not every player, but a lot of players would rather have the opportunity to fight a player Killa, and at the very least, they would love to be Killa themselves. Like who doesn't want to be
Hmm.
feel the superpower god mode of Killa?
Yeah, and you wouldn't even be able to take anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you could do like reward based structure where it's like kill a PMC, you get this reward. If you kill 3 PMCs, you get this reward. And it's just like whatever. And it's like on a monthly cooldown or however you want to. You got to spend a bajillion rubles. Like I don't care what the incentive is. It's just like
Yeah, yeah.
to me, that would just be like, oh, that would be so much fun. And as a PvP type of interaction, I would love to go against a player killer or vice versa. Like that just be way more interesting. Way more interesting.
It'd be good if there was like a different voice line or something, so you could tell that it was player controlled, or whatever. Like a
Sure.
different voice line would be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be good. It'd be good. No, that's good. Maybe I need to check it out again. I do like that it's sort of there's the hideout and there's more stuff to do, upgrade, whatever. Like it feels good, the progression system right now. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like at the end game, but
Yeah.
it's kind of neat. Kind of neat. Maybe worth checking out. I don't know. What do you think? Like, is it possible to play as a solo or not really?
You definitely can. I think it's optimal, obviously, to play in group. I mean, you can group queue, but like I understand why people don't want to do that. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting because we've been running into a lot of like solos and occasionally
Hmm.
duos. Um, but that could be for various reasons. We're all at different levels, so I'm not sure how the matchmaker works. And
Hmm.
like I'm probably the furthest behind the curve in both level and rank because you got like a rank thing you climb if you choose to play rank.
Right.
So I don't know how all that fits into it, the matchmaking. And also at like if the map has like a player limit of 6, right? Does that mean 6 individual players? Does that mean like 6 squads? And if you're a solo, you count as a squad? Like how does that all work is a real question. So there might need to be some, optimization slash improvements they could do on that front.
Mhm.
But I'm suspecting as we go up the progression, it's going to get more and more, you know, challenging in terms of the PvP and not just like solos. But yeah, sometimes it was like felt really bad because we were doing something I don't remember, and oh yeah, they went into this building. Yeah, so one guy went into the building. He went and looted the first one. He went upstairs, and the other guy followed. And I was like, kind of like, I really wasn't there, but I was coming in, and as I came in, one of my friends goes, "Oh!" And then there's just like a lot of, or no, there's a lot of gunfire, and he's like, "Oh!" And there's more gunfire, and we're like, "You okay? What happened?" He's like, "There was a guy in the corner just sitting there, and he shot me, and I wasn't ready for it, and I turned around and killed him." And then my other friend was like, "Oh my god, I was literally just in that room. How did he get in there?" And then what we think was he was like sitting there, like just stealing some mouse. And then because Shishpi, one of my friends, he went to loot something. I guess he stood still for a little bit, and so he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the drop on him," but it didn't work out in his favor. And he was like, "Oh, I feel so bad." He was just he's just sitting in the corner, just like trying to be still as a mouse. Like, yeah,
Crazy.
yeah,
That sounds yeah. Well, I guess maybe I'll try it. I don't know. I
yeah. It
just
could be
probably just have
something.
time. It's I still have time, but
Yeah,
too much going on. Too
yeah.
much going on. Well, I was going to do some. We're going to talk about some other bits, but I think we'll just push them to next week because, as I said, I got to go slightly early than usual off the cast. So we'll push the other things to next week, like the M1A and the PvP and arena thing isn't like time sensitive, so we can talk about it next time. So yeah, I mean, I'll talk about that. Maybe I'll have played a little bit more Stalker as well. Like I played a bit of Stalker too, but like I've not really played enough. I did like 2 streams of it, but spent most of my time like trying to battle with graphic settings and trying to make it run at better than like 50 FPS, and it was graphically not the best running thing I've ever played in my entire life. But what is these days, Like every game I come to, I'm just
Yeah.
like, you're fully like upscaled and like frame gen to the max, and you're just able to squeak out 53 FPS with like a 5800 X3D and a 4070 Ti Super. It's like, oh my god!
I will say Delta Force, I'm getting a pretty like reliable 120 FPS. I can't get like a constant 144, but I'm happy with 120.
It ran
And
well for me when I played it. Yeah,
yeah, and it looks good. I mean, it's yeah. So that is
yeah.
the one. The like another upside for me is like the game runs good. But yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. And I saw Stalker had a couple like patches, day 1 patch, day 3 patch, day 4 patch type stuff. So maybe it's gotten better since I don't know when you last played.
And I actually need to update my drivers as well. So that is on me. So I do need to do that. Kind of forgot, and then it was like stream time, and I was already when I remembered, I was like, everything's loaded up. Like you can't install an NVIDIA driver while you're
Yeah.
streaming because it breaks everything. I literally tried it once just to see what would happen, and it obliterates OBS. When you
Yeah.
have to just restart everything, it like completely screws the whole thing. Because like the monitor flickery thing, and OBS is just like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
like partly uninstalls and reinstalls the graphic driver while you're like live. It does not like it. I tell you,
You're bold.
it does not
You're
like it.
bold.
Yeah,
Right.
but we'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about it next week. Lots to talk about at least. But yeah, I've got to whiz off, go and help out with the little ones. Go and fix something for the wife.
All right. With that, we will conclude today's cast. Thank you everyone for tuning in. With that, we will see you all next week.
Bye bye.